This podcast is proud to be part of the TalkSport Fan Network. TalkSport. Powered by fans.
It's a goal! What a goal! It's absolutely world class from Marcus Tunde!
Johnson puts it in the air. Aidan Flynn wins the It's still with Lee Gregory. He's in the box. Tries to screw him. Is it going to be there? Yes! Oh my word! The Wednesday week!
Hello, good evening and welcome to another episode of the Wednesday Week. My name's Dan Fudge and joining me tonight is Ben from the Green and White podcast as we talk about our upcoming fixture at Hillsborough against the Argyle Inn.
I won't be giving you a chorus of that.
No that's the bit where you're meant to carry on singing. You know what I mean? That's the bit. Ben, how's it going, man? You all right?
Yeah, not too bad. Obviously, you know, everything's getting a bit twitchy these days, the way things are going down the bottom here. But yeah, still been a pretty good season so far.
Well, you know, this is what I wanted to get into for most of the show. I wanted you to talk about, you know, the back end of last season and, well, I said the back end of it, most of the season last season, getting into the championship, how you find it, and then the tumultuous time you've had through the calendar month of February. It's been a bit, you know, squeaky bum time for you chaps. So, you know, let's get into it. So last season, I genuinely, you lot pissed me off right from the start because you just wouldn't die. You just kept it up. I mean, what do you attribute that to?
I think Steven Schumacher, for all his flaws, he's got two very good skills. One is reacting to and changing tactics in game, reacting to game state. But the other one is creating that kind of little man syndrome, especially for a club like Argyle. I mean, as much as he chose to jump ship at the first, you know, available opportunity, I think he did understand that about both the fan base, but also, you know, the club. I think you get a certain type of player who's willing to come down here, travel on the coach, however many miles every day. It takes a certain kind of attitude, and he really sort of galvanized the squad, which, you know, in terms of wages and budgets and transfers, was like a mid-table squad, and sort of really united them in that kind of Jose Mourinho backs against the wall. Everyone is against us. Everyone wants us to fail. No one's talking about us kind of mentality, like he did, you know, sort of many years ago with Chelsea at a higher level. So I think, you know, credit has to go to Steven Schumacher for that. But I think the players within the squad, there's some really good leaders. Joe Edwards, although he's not featured quite so much this year, you know, and lots of other decent guys in the squad. Jordan Houghton, you know, decent senior pros. Dan Scarr, again, some of these haven't featured all that much during the season, but in the dressing room were vital last season and even this season, providing that kind of leadership that you kind of need when it's, you know, as you're well aware, having, you know, experienced it. Fortunately for you, you came out all right in the end, but it was a very nervous, nail biting, several months towards to the end of the season, really from Christmas on, really was just a roller coaster. Some of us enjoyed it and some of us not so much.
Well, this is it, right? So that season in League One, you know, you guys had a roaring start. We had a stuttered start and then went on a mega run and then absolutely dropped our ass this time last year, back in February, March. And Ipswich just seemed to just gallop out of nowhere. They had a really good January. They solidified really well and essentially came in and crashed the party. And we had to do something in the playoffs that no one's ever done before. And then we had to go through the playoff final that was scored with 4 seconds to go. I mean, you know, it's a great headline, but I tell you what, it's your backside is 5p, 50p for a lot of that for about 3-4 months. You know what I mean? It's
absolutely,
like
yeah.
It's a great story to tell, but fucking hell, I'd have rather gone up when you guys did.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, I remember sort of like after the first leg of the playoff, you know, and it seemed all but gone, you know, the absolute devastation among you. Like I say, it's great when you come out the other side, but in the moment, it just must be absolutely harrowing. You know, we've experienced enough of that ourselves to sort of empathise. To be honest, we'd quite like all the teams from league who came up last season to stay up. I think most of the fan base. I think it was such a good title race, and there were three such good teams that you know, and it would also credit us with how good that win was if all three of us could stay up. Obviously, if it's us or you, same as you, I'm sure you'd feel that, you know, you wouldn't think twice about sending us down. But I think it would, you know, it was such a good good title race and three really good teams. You know, one of the best seasons I can remember.
It was definitely fun to be part of. So when you guys went up, I mean, I'm still struggling because this seems to be the hardest championship I've seen in a number of years, especially when you look at the teams that came down from the Premier League, like Leeds, Southampton, Leicester. They're, you know, it's no surprise to see them up there because you look at the teams in this league, and Coventry were 90 minutes off of the Premier League. You've got Middlesbrough in there. They know what they're doing in this league. They're stalwarts, as it were. And then you look at clubs like West Brom as well, and you're thinking, shit, you know, I don't fancy this, but this year is the biggest one I can see where the gulf between the Championship and League One is so vast, especially given the way our fortunes and Rotherham's have gone, albeit, you know, they did it a season prior. But speaking of Rotherham, there was a period where Plymouth were that Rotherham club, that one that were absolutely smashing League One, couldn't stay in the Championship, and then, you know, do you feel like you want to get that monkey off your back a little bit? There was a period where you went down, solidified, came back up, and even if you just stay in the league, is that what you guys were expecting at the start of the season?
Yeah, I mean, I predicted us to finish 17th, just because, you know, the feel-good factor riding the promotion, etc. We brought back Whittaker and Mumba on permanence, although, you know, £1 million each, so our transfer record. It's, you know, when you're talking about the clubs in the Championship, that's peanuts.
That's someone's wages.
Yeah, exactly. So, you know, honestly, I think most fans just survival anywhere above the dotted line. If it's goal difference on the last day, will snap your hand off, because once we're in and, yeah, you got that £5 million TV money again, then we can start to do stuff, because we don't make a loss. The club runs to a budget. This last year, I mean, the year before, I think we lost a couple 100,000. This year just gone, we lost 3 million, but that was based on we spent 3 million on acquiring some land for training facilities, because obviously we haven't got Championship standard stuff at the minute. So that's a, you know, investment for the club. Promotion bonuses, and there's also a loan repayment that was required as it was a stipulation if they were to get promoted, then a certain
right.
So we lost about 3 million. So we're still able to go out and invest in players now without those sort of, you know, promotion bonuses and payments and loans being repaid going out. For the money we're going to get for staying in the Championship really allows our excellent recruitment team to go out and do some bits, as it were, and that's exciting. But until we can stay in the league, we're essentially a League One team. You know, a lot of that squad is a League One squad, and although we were able to re-sign 3 or 4 players who were out of contract, bring back a couple of our star performers from that season, it is still very much a squad which, you know, many people weren't expecting to go the distance in League One. So the fact that it's up here scrapping, you know, with a good chance of survival in the Championship is testament to how well all of those players have stepped up, to be honest. But yeah, we'd all take survival, because realistically, like I say, that squad isn't, you know, it's not been improved a great deal on what it was last year.
Yeah, you can kind of see that, and God, listening to you talk about being financially, what's the word? Incumbent, financially solvent. Yeah, that's incumbent's completely the wrong word. Financially solvent and being, you know, it is impressive to me as a Sheffield Wednesday fan to hear. So let's get into the Championship, and so, you know, you start the season, like you said, staying up would have been the highest on the agenda. I mean, how do you feel like it went? Did you then start to believe and think, hang on, we could get mid to top table here, given the start we've had?
I don't think so. You know, we won on the opening day, Huddersfield down here. Then we had Saints, and they won in extra time. We gave them a good kick in. They weren't really up to scratch at the time, and then sort of, you know, a few results here. We had lost to Millwall and Swansea back to back at home. Tempered optimism, but it always felt like, you know, we always sort of put ourselves up above the bottom 3 early doors and sort of seemed to be hanging around there. I think before he left, Schumacher's points per game was like 1.18, and since Foster's come in, it's sort of 1.22. So, you know, that seemed to be okay, whilst the bottom 3 were kind of adrift. Now, you had an awful start, didn't you? You know, Rotherham too. So it's kind of like, well, that's sort of, that's a relief. It's not just about your form, is it? It's about what everyone else is doing, to a certain degree. I know you have to look after your games, the old, cliche, but if you've got two teams that are absolutely stinking the gaff up, then you've only got to worry about the one slot, haven't you? And try and keep above someone else. And all of a sudden that narrative changed. So, even though in the last sort of 8-9 games that Foster's been in, he's been getting better results than Schumacher was over, that opening 22 games he was here, where we were thinking, no, we're doing all right. We're sort of 17th there around. We were sort of, flitting up and down between sort of 15th and 19th, and sort of, a good number of points away from the drop, sort of 8, 6, 8, 7, keeping that sort of, nice couple of games, 3-game, 2-game cushion. Now it's very different because everyone else is starting to pull up the trees. So it's a very different feeling now, even though we're basically on the same trajectory all season. It's a very different feeling now that everyone is competing and starting to click into gear. And you just got to hope someone else is going to drop with us and drop further.
Yeah, with the weekend that's just gone, that was a culmination of a month where everybody around us in the bottom just picked points off. We beat Millwall. We've just beat Rotherham. We've won 4 out of the last 5, but everybody else seems to have picked points up, right?
Yeah.
And you've got QPR picking points up, Huddersfield beating us, and then there's something like 7 points now between 12th and 21st, or something ridiculous like that. So you've now got about 8-9 teams now looking over their shoulder. And as ridiculous as it sounds, you've got teams like ourselves, like QPR, who've got a bit between their teeth right now, and they're fighting for it. And those wins that we've got have now become a point of, like, a necessary amount of wins to get, because had we have not picked up what we see as a random win, we're like, oh my God, we've won, that's amazing, look at us, repeat bloody Millwall. But had we have not got those wins in those last 5 games, we would be adrift with Rotherham right now. And I find it incredible the way that the league's gone, and it is a great league for that. So do you feel like, who are the teams in and around you guys now that you're now looking at thinking they're shitter than us, you know what I mean, we're probably better than them?
To be honest, it's a difficult one, because under Schumacher, although we would play kamikaze football, you always felt like you could get a result against anyone, and that was probably a bit of a false narrative. We beat Norwich 6-2 at home, but they were garbage on the day. The tactics worked, they didn't turn up. But other than that, I think we got a draw at Hull, we got a draw at West Brom away. Other than that, we've not really picked up points against the big boys. But you always felt like you kind of could, because we had that, like I say, Schumacher sort of instilled that we can take it. We're down with Rotherham, the lowest budgets, lowest wage bills in the league. So you have to have the attitude that everyone's bigger than us, and we're gonna, it's not the size of the dog in the fight, it's the fight in the dog. The old cliche. So I think we kind of lost that a little bit under Foster in the last sort of since he's come in. It sort of seems to have petered out a bit, and we are more looking at sort of fighting the teams around us rather than going and really having a go like we had at one point. So that it makes games like, us coming to you really important games, because it's the games against those around us that we're really gonna have to get something out of, rather than the freak results. We've had 3-3 against Borough at home, 3-3 at Watford at home.
Not terrible results,
but you sort of felt like, if you're going to go and score 3 goals at home, you've got a chance of winning. Yes, we weren't defending very well. We're piling men forward, but you got that chance. Whereas now, I think we've had like 3 shots on target in the last 3 home games. And bearing in mind, yes, they are against sort of West Brom, Leeds, Ipswich, who are flying. That's still not our, wasn't what was carrying us through. And I think although we've tightened up in terms of the underlying data, we're still conceding, but we're not sort of threatening, scaring teams. Like just, Morgan Whittaker's touches have dropped from sort of 40-50 a game to sort of 30-20 a game, things like that. If you're not getting the most out of the best players in your team, if you're not maximizing your strength, if your best players are defenders, great, play to the strengths of the team. If your best players are strikers or inside forwards, well, then play to the strengths of your team, your squad. That seems the reasonable assumption to make, or a reasonable plan. And I don't think we're quite doing that at the moment. So in terms of who's around us that we're gonna think we're better than them, it's everyone, like I say, it's mad that everyone's picking up points. I thought QPR had a I thought QPR have got an absolutely horrible run, and I can't see them. They got out of the bottom three, but that's going to be it. And then they went and did what they did on Saturday. So who knows what they're gonna do with their horrible running. We really need to just focus, I think, on trying to get something out of the games against those in and around us, which isn't an attitude we've had this season. It's strange, but I think that's what it's come down to. Games like we play you and then we play Blackburn. I think you play us, and then you've got a couple of tough games after that. So I think it's the same for you. It's going to be focusing on those ones in and around you that, and just hope for the best. Roll seems a lot more tactically astute than Foster, or adept, I should say. Not that Foster's very tactically, he switched on, but he doesn't seem to have a plan B yet that functions. So if you can shut down our sort of slow build up and then start and play out through the high press, then we might be a little bit stuck. Whereas Rawl seems a little bit more able to choose his horses for courses. So I'm a little bit nervous about this week. And I know you haven't asked me this question yet, but we've got you and then Blackburn, and we need, I think, 4 points to 6 points out of those two games, two away games, to really be feeling comfortable. Otherwise, we're going to be squeaking with you.
Well, Blackburn are in absolute free fall. So I had a screen grab I sent to a friend of mine who's a Blackburn fan, and it was something after I want to say 20-something games, and they've only scored 11 points in the last 17 games. They are absolutely in free fall, Blackburn, right now. Out of the two games that you say with Blackburn and Sheffield Wednesday, Blackburn look at the easiest ones. We seem to have got our shit together. However, having said that, every win that we seem to have got has been seat of your pants. Now, maybe that's because of the, the position we're in where, every week we're going, well, this is a 6-pointer, this one's a must win, and all the other cliches that you could think of about getting the win. But we seem to have done it. But the annoying thing is, like I said before, QPR are winning. Huddersfield have picked up a couple of points. But there are a few teams in there where relegation will catch them up. Stoke got dragged into it the other day. Yeah. Birmingham are in free falling. Blackburn are free falling, because if you look above 15th where you guys are, you're on 40. The next few teams above you are on 44. So there's a bit of a gap there now. If you can break into that group of people, then you'll be laughing. But I think there's going to be Blackburn, Swansea, and Birmingham aren't fighting for their life as much as everybody else, and I feel like they might end up sleepwalking into relegation. A couple of those teams.
Yeah, I think Swansea's a good shout. I think Blackburn Eustace might sort them out sooner rather than later, or at least in time to get away with something. He's good at making the best out of what he's got, and I think Thomason was too mated to a style. But Swansea, I think for definite, there's potential there for them to sleepwalk in. There's a few teams that I thought were going to do it and didn't, like Cardiff, who looked like they were going to, but then sort of managed to just pull it up at the last minute. Millwall, they were dead and buried, but then Harris has come in and got 6 from 2. So it's anyone's game really. It's quite scary when you sit and analyze it.
It really is. Now I've got your starting 11 up here from I want to say Middlesbrough. Now, one name that pops out there for Sheffield Wednesday fans listening is obviously Lewis Gibson, a player that if you play Footy Manager a couple of years ago was top boy. You had to get him in, when you got him on loan or what, he was great. So when we signed him, I thought, tell you what, we've got a player here. We've got a player here. And it just didn't really sit well for him at Sheffield Wednesday. It just didn't land, it just didn't happen. Whether we played him wrong, didn't fit into then Darren Moore's style of play and all the rest of it. It just didn't sit. Same with players such as Lewis Wing, who was established championship player, did really well, and then came to us and didn't really set the world on fire. Is this the type of lineup we're going to expect to see on Tuesday night?
I imagine so, yeah. Whether you'll get JB starting again in the wing, I don't know. I say the wing, it's inside forward. But yeah, I very much expect it's going to be that. It started off as a kind of a say a 3-4-2-1, and it's now more of a 3-5. Well, I don't know. Hardy's up on his own, and the two inside forwards can either come and support him, drop back into the midfield just to flood the midfield, or drop and allow the wing backs to overlap. But it sounds more complicated than it is. It's pretty I won't say straightforward, but it's almost like, if you ever sort of played 5-a-side, 6-a-side, 7-a-side, it's almost like playing 11-a-side in that style. It's very much sort of
constantly rotating.
Basically
playing what position.
Exactly. It's very, very much like that, with sort of like the striker with Hardy starting the press off, and or Whitaker or JB. It had been Alfie Devine playing in that left-sided inside forward role, but he'd not been set in the world of light the last few games. So JB, who'd been playing in the central midfield, pushed out against Borough, did really well there, and so he retained his place in the last game against Ipswich. But whether that will stay the same, but that's definitely the sort of setup you're going to see. 3 centre backs. Pleguezuelo might come out, and I forgot his name. Phillips might come in. Matt Phillips from on loan from Spurs, really good. Raw, got a mistake in him, but just athletically and mentally, he's got it all. He just needs to be able to sort of put it together for 90 minutes now, and he'll be playing Premier League football, playing for England. But saying he's got a ricket in him, he has cost a goal occasionally by sort of like maybe excuse me, by not maybe reading the movement of the winger coming in. So it's kind of like that's the risk you play, isn't it, when you've got excellent but raw youngsters in on loan. So Pleguezuelo's come in for a couple of games, more experienced fellow we signed from Twente in the summer. Hasn't really set the world alight since he's come in, but he's looked good the last couple of games. That's kind of lineup. There might be a few changes, like I say, there at right centre back. Maybe the wing back Sorinola and Miller might get a rest, and you might see we've got Lino Sousa on loan from Villa. Obviously Bali Mumba, who you remember is playing wing back again after being under Schumacher playing wide forward, wide left. He's back to sort of playing wing back with Ian Foster. So yeah, you might see Mumba come in, you might see Lino Sousa come in. But yeah, that front three looks probably to be the same. I imagine JB will start out there unless we get to see one of my favourite players, which is Mustafa Bundu, the Sierra Leonean. He's magic. He's got that kind of Dimitar Berbatov.
He's a bit of a cult hero down there, isn't
he? He is. He's a bit. I mean, he hits the target with 80% of his shots. He's the sort of guy who just looks like he's doing nothing, but is actually doing bits.
Doing bits.
Just got that swagger. So I don't know if he's sort of as good in the press as Ian Foster would like. He's a little bit laid back, like I say. He's got the kind of Dimitar Berbatov feel about him. But I'd love to see him get a start on the left. But yeah, you're going to see that sort of lineup 3-4-2-1, 3-4-3 sort of setup. Yeah.
Sounds like Darren Moore when he first started, just switching 3s and 1s into various slots. So before we wrap it up, Ben, how do you feel like it's going to go? Give me a score prediction.
I think if we can get the first goal, we can frustrate you. We can sit in and nick it. I think if you get the first goal, we could struggle. I think I'm going to go for a 1-1. I think 1-1 is a reasonable. To be honest, I'd probably be happy with that. The way you're going, like you say, 4 out of 5. Was it Leicester was the only one you lost? I know they're around teams in and around you, but I tell you what, I'd snap your hand off to beat four teams in and around us before the end of the season. That would see us up, I reckon. So, yeah, not a team we want to come and play right now. If we could get that nick a 1-1, I'd probably be happy.
Fair enough. Listen, Ben, thanks a lot for joining us. It's Green and White Podcast on the socials. Yes.
Yes, that's right. Yeah. Cheers.
Thanks a lot, pal. See you later.